Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast, where we help people combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Scott White. Scott is the life is too short guy, and he's the happiest guy you'll ever meet. After spending over a decade in investment banking on Wall Street, and he survived, so that's pretty something to be happy about, he took a chance and became an entrepreneur and business builder. Today, he's the chairman and CEO of a public real estate company. Now Scott is on a mission to make the world happier, one smile at a time. With this endless energy, he motivates and inspires everyone he meets to focus on happiness, gratefulness, and positivity. He takes you on an inspirational and emotional journey as he weaves together thought-provoking personal stories and stories of others who have had a major aha moment in life to share the key principles of this life is too short guy philosophy. So please welcome to the show, Scott White. Scott, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for the invite. Very nice to meet you, Bob.
You too. You too. Well, let's tell people how you became so happy, if you will. Tell us about you and how you got to where you are.
So I think it was an evolution. There wasn't a specific moment in my life where all of a sudden I woke up extra happy. I think over the course of my life, I've started to focus more on gratefulness, happiness, positivity, and a few years ago, more and more of my friends and family were saying, boy, I wish I could bottle up some of your energy and positivity and share it with the world. And that's where I came up with the concept of the book. This is my bottle. This is my vehicle for sharing my energy, my positivity, and my philosophy. And thus I created the Life is Too Short guy.
And that's an interesting concept because if you think about it, and maybe through COVID and everything else, people have realized the value of life. We don't have a long time in this journey, and it's fun to enjoy the moments, enjoy what we have. And I like the fact that you help people to realize that, because our society needs that so much today.
So when I wrote the book, very deliberately by design, it's a simple book. It is not a academic book. It is not a theoretical book. It's not a book packed with all sorts of stats. It's meant to be very approachable and very welcoming in a storytelling format. And the goal is that everyone could pick this book up and live a better life. And it doesn't take that much. Like you said, we all know sort of minutes are finite and make the most of every minute. But how often do we think about it? Have you thought about it today? As your listeners listen to this, is that a topic they thought about today? And so LITSG, the philosophy I laid out, has 10 principles. And one of the principles is minutes matter. And I go through this exercise to make you think about it. And here's what I do. I do a little bit of very simple math. I say, when you're born, you're going to live plus or minus 80 years. Approximately, we're just estimating 80 years gets you 42 million minutes in your life. My guess is most of your listeners are about halfway through life, plus or minus. We're just going to make the math easy for me and say you're 40 years old. So you take the 42, you divide it in half, you're down to 21 million minutes. You're going to sleep about a third of those minutes, plus or minus. Now you're down to 14 million minutes. The last couple of years of life, usually, not always, but usually you're a little bit slower, some physical and mental impairments. So I'm just going to round off a couple million minutes. Your 40-year-old listening to this has 12 million minutes left. And I challenge that person to say, what are you doing with those minutes? And by the way, that's on average. You may have more, but you also may have less. And one of the images that I give people to work with and think about is a barrel. I say to people, think about a barrel. For me, it's a wine barrel. It's a big wine barrel. And in it are gold coins. And each time I do something, including talking to you right now, I reach into that barrel and I pull out a couple of gold coins and I use those minutes. I don't know how many gold coins are in there, and I don't know when they're going to run out. But I'm thoughtful and proactive and deliberate in saying, am I making the most of those gold coins or those minutes? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Too many people I meet will get to the end of a day, a week, a month, a year, and be like, I'm running around. I got this, I got that. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I got done. I don't know what. Stop. Think about it. Don't let those minutes just bleed out. Don't let them drip out the bottom. Know where your minutes are going. No judgment, by the way, on where your minutes are going. That's up to you, but be thoughtful in how you're using your minutes.
And that's a great point because, we can let society run our life. And like you said, be running around with a barrel, chicken head cut off, running around and not realize where anything goes. And then you get to the point where it's like, what did I do with my life? What did I do with today? What did I do with my kids? That's a big one because, when you're raising kids, you're trying to build a career and everything like that. But you got to take that time. When I raised my boys, I got 3 boys, and I made sure I was at every ball game I could possibly be at. I was coaching them. I tried to make sure I was, spending as much time as I could with them. So definitely a good positive message there that, it's not just a scare. It's not a scare tactic. It's a reality tactic, I guess, if you could say that.
It's call to action. What I
Yeah.
think about it as a call to action. People have asked me, the life is too short guy, and then you talk about all these. There are a lot of stories woven through where people have had major aha moments, people that have overcome near-death experiences, people that have overcome catastrophic injuries, people that have overcome death of a spouse or death of a
Right.
child or addiction. And what I tell everyone is this is a call to action. When you hear me say this and you read the book, I want you to have that proverbial aha moment. I talk a lot in the book about aha moments, and I challenge readers and your listeners, why wait for that kick in the teeth? Why are you waiting for that major setback to be like, you know what? Today's the day I'm going to live my best life, because before this, I wasn't living my best. Well, hello, today's the day. You don't need that diagnosis. You don't need that accident. You don't need that aha. This is the aha. Listening to this, reading the book, taking a step away and be like, you know what? He's right. I'm not living my best life. I'm not making the most of my minutes. Today's the day I'm going to change that.
Yeah. And that's a great reminder for people, is we all have that capability to change whatever direction we're going in. If you want to be, more positive in a positive direction, here's your chance. If you want to change from a negative direction to a positive direction, we have that capability. We have that power within us. So why not do that? Great reminder for people. It's interesting because looking through, some of the things I was reading about it, power of positivity, if you will. Because people always say, well, that positivity is Pollyanna. If we can, let's get into that a little bit, because I always like to get the different viewpoints on that. What do you think about that type of statement?
So one of the most underlying principles of LITSG, and a theme, excuse me, that flows through the book, is attitude is everything, the power of positivity. And I tell people, and this is one of the few places I do incorporate research, and I think I surprise people. I tell people, imagine a pie, right? So we have a pie, and we're going to whack it up in terms of percentages. If I were to ask you, Bob, how much of your happiness is tied to or predicted by your circumstances, your house, your car, your job, your money, your relationship, your friends, your family, maybe you're dealing with something negative, a divorce or sickness. How much of that pie do you think is predicted by your circumstances?
That pie of my stuff predicted by my circumstances? Maybe 10%.
You're brilliant. You are the first person ever to answer that correctly. Literally. I'm telling you, no one has ever answered that correctly. Most people think it's about 50%.
Wow.
So the pie, and that's wonderful. I'm glad you realize that, because most people think, oh, my new car is going to make me happy. My new relationship is going to make me happy. My new job, the money, that again, people deal with negatives, dealing with a death or dealing with whatever, that's going to make me long-term unhappy. The reality is 10% of our happiness is tied to or predicted by our circumstances. Okay, so now you got 90%. Well, 50% is genetic, like your eye color, your hair color, your whatever. 50% is sort of coded. But wow, you know what that means? That means 40%. That's a big chunk. 40% is based on your perspective, the way you view the world. And everyone has the ability to control that. I realize there are certain days and certain circumstances that it's just hard to have that positive attitude. However, what I would say to you is, even at the worst of times, it could be worse. And having the ability to look at it and say, this is bad, but let me give you a great example. So one of the people I interview in the book is a wonderful gentleman by the name of Eric. Eric is a former football player. He was injured in a college football game. I actually was at the game he was injured in, and he is paralyzed from the neck down.
Wow.
And Eric has gone on to just an amazing attitude, an amazing perspective. One of the things he said to me is like, Scott, you know what? If the doctor calls you and tells you you have a month to live, my immediate reaction is, wow, that's great, because you could have told me I have a day to live. That's the perspective that I'm trying to get people to realize and think about. It changes so much. You have the ability to control so much of your attitude and how you view the world. Embrace it and own it.
Yeah. And that's, wow, this is good, because it's like talking to the mirror. That's great. I appreciate this so much. What we go through, you bring up such great points. Just that right there. Okay, here you got a guy in a wheelchair, and he's saying, okay, you could be told you got a month to live or a day. It's look at the positive side of it. I mean, I have a similar friend of mine. He injured himself when he was 19 and he's paralyzed in a wheelchair. The best attitude you can imagine. I love hearing him talk. I love being around him. He just that great inspiration is there. And it's like,
Yeah,
I've got my 2 feet to work. He's got to have help with that. And just, a strong faith, just all around, it really gives you a better perspective. And that positive perspective is key. I mean, there's a science to it. What you think guides you to what you do. And
no
if
doubt.
you're always in the negative, you're going to be, getting dirty. You're going to be down in the dumps. You're going to be focused on that stuff. When you turn it to being positive, it does affect what you do, what you look at, what you see. And people, they need to realize how important that is.
No doubt. Look, one of the tools I talk about in the book is your first thought.
Mm-hmm.
I'd ask you and I'd ask your listeners, what was your first thought this morning when you opened your eyes? And amazingly, I don't know, do you remember, Bob?
Yeah, I was thankful that I woke up.
Well, that's great. Again, you are among the few, because most people I ask either don't remember at all, which is the vast majority, or I'm tired, it's dark, it's cold, I want to go back to bed, I got a tough day ahead. And I
Right.
tell people, why start with, I use the symbolism of a blurry lens. Why have a blurry lens when you could start the day as you did with beautiful clear lenses? I'm grateful to be awake, I'm grateful to be alive, I'm happy to I am so grateful for the opportunity to talk to Bob today. I'm grateful to spread my message to the people that are listening to this. I'm grateful to wake up next to somebody I love. I can't wait to go down and have some breakfast. I can't wait to get my day started. But I'm now 10 seconds in and I'm grateful for 16 different things.
Right.
This sets you on a tone for a positive day. Again, let's be realistic. There are going to be setbacks. Things are going to happen over the course of the day. Everything isn't perfect. Like you said, Pollyannish, for me to say everything is always amazing and perfect, that's not true.
Right.
Why start off either neutral or negative when you could set your day and your tone right, be proactive, open your eyes, and wow, best day ever.
And that sets such a control. I mean, you give yourself power for that day because you're starting it out the way you want it to be, not the way, people say, oh, I wake up and I look at my email. That puts you in the dump on category, if you will. People are dumping stuff on you for emails of stuff you may have to do. No, don't look at that for 15 to 30 minutes or an hour after you wake up, because it doesn't do you any good right now. Focus on what makes you better. Focus on what gives you that gratitude and happiness to start your day, because then you're in control of that day.
Amen. Agreed.
Yeah, right. Well, let's I guess, I mean, we see how last, this could be the last day. This day is great. It's this philosophy. Who is it for? Everybody? I mean, fill us in on that a little bit. Is it, for the negative naysayer? Who needs this?
Absolutely everybody. So I would ask you is, who doesn't want to live a happier life? Who
Right.
doesn't? And it could be incremental, right? So so some people will sort of shoot back in a critical way. Well, Scott, look at your life, right? It's very hard for you to relate to fill in the blank, whatever you want to relate to.
Yeah.
And my answer is, it's incremental. It's relative to where you are, not relative to where others are or where society is. Here's where I am right now. How could I be a little happier? How could I smile a little bit more? How can I contribute more to the world? And if we all were just a little bit happier, just imagine 300 plus million people in America, all a little bit happier. Wow. What a great world that would be. When I wrote the book, very deliberately, I designed it so anyone could read it. It's a fast read. Most people can get through it in a couple of sittings. It's a lot of stories in a storytelling format. You're not going to get lost in it. I don't think you're going to doze off. It's a fast-paced, sort of rapid fire. Here's the tool. Here's the answer. Here's the example. Here's the story. Boom, boom, boom. I want to make the world happier one smile at a time. And this book and speaking with people like you is part of this mission.
And that's awesome because, I do that with my books too. I don't put a lot of fluff into them. They're not, they may not be grammatically correct to the T, but they're there for a point. They're there to inspire, they're to give you the perspective that I think is what I try to convey and what people can help people with. So yeah, I definitely understand that. I mean, even in your line of work in real estate, you've got to have a positive attitude, especially the market maybe now. I mean, I don't know where you are, if it's dipped. I mean, with the interest rates going up, that doesn't help, but you got a lot of objections, if you will, in that industry. So, I mean, this fits in well with what you do.
Look, I've worked in a lot of fast-paced, intense, challenging environments. I spent about 13 years on Wall Street. I was an investment banker. You want to talk about a tough place
And
to
you're not that
survive.
gray, you know.
And it's all about perspective. It's all
Yeah.
about attitude. I talk in the book, one of the stories and one of the things I talk about in the gratefulness chapter is I started in investment banking in 2000, 2001, and very, very difficult job to get. I was very fortunate. My timing worked out. I sort of say this half tongue in cheek, but it's somewhat true in that I got that job in almost the only market I could have gotten that job, because I was offered the position in 1999 when everyone wanted to go to dot-coms. So I was the only one left that said, hey, I'll go to Wall Street. Very difficult to get a Wall Street job. And one of the things that I really think distinguished me, and I started with a class of, I can't remember exactly, but call it 70 or 80 investment bankers. And within 4 or 5 years, there were like 3 or 4 of us left.
Wow.
And part of my survival, if you were to cast it that way, was I was so grateful for the opportunity. I would walk in the door, no matter how hard it got. I was like, I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah.
I can't believe they've given me this opportunity to work in financial services, to work a Wall Street job, to be part of a bulge bracket investment bank, to learn, to work with amazingly brilliant people. Like, this was my perspective all the time. And I didn't care what they asked me to do. If they said, go clean bathrooms, like clean bathrooms. If they said, wash windows, it didn't matter to me. Whereas I think a lot of other people go into professions, banking and otherwise, where they have a certain academic pedigree and they have certain expectations, and there's certain things that are below them. There was nothing below me, and to this day there really isn't. There's very little that I'd consider below me. So much of it is right here about your perspective, how you approach it, and walking it every day. I'm like, I can't believe I have a chance to be an investment banker in New York at a bulge bracket investment bank. I think it was part of why I lasted as long as I did.
And that's, again, it gets back to the mindset, the grateful attitude. We all have that power to do that. Humbleness. I see humbleness in that too. Nothing's below you. And really nothing is. I mean, if we were held to a survival standard, we would do anything we needed to do to survive.
That's right.
And that's something we need to keep in the back of our mind. Granted, a tiger isn't chasing us down, I hope. But let's face it, it's that humbleness really carries a lot of weight too, because it gives you that idea to be grateful in whatever your situation is. So
that's right.
Again, thank you for that reminder. It's a great one with that. Now, what makes your idea more unique than others? Because you hear about other, positive books. I've got some, Tony Robbins, who knows. What makes yours more unique?
So I think there's a few things. One, it's very practical and approachable. It's not academic. It's very storytelling format. Two, I use the stories of people that are just interesting, fascinating stories. I told you about the football player who's injured. I talk about a story of someone I actually went to high school with, and just a wonderful individual who at the age of 3, his daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and talks about the story of she was, and I almost cry as I say this, she was a survivor. Mm-hmm. She lived 5 years in one day, which turned her, having lived 5 years as a survivor, she died one day after the 5th anniversary of the diagnosis. And I learned from him about the power of humor, and I explain that. There's stories of people that tried to commit suicide. And then today, this was, I don't know when they were in college, now today, they have a thriving practice in psychology and social work and helping youth. And those sorts of stories illustrate the key principles in a very simple way. This is not the kind of book where you're going to read it and you're going to be like, wow, I've never thought of any of this. I can't believe somebody came up with these ideas. You're going to read it, you're going to be like, this makes sense. It's not that hard to implement. I need to be very thoughtful and proactive and do some simple things to live a happier life.
I appreciate that. Simplicity is always good in our complex world. I mean, really, we complicate our own life. Let's keep it simple. It's not that difficult to do. So thank you for that reminder. Now, it's always interesting too, because, with these principles, people always, I'm sure they're thinking, well, how do I apply it? If you can, give us some tips or some ideas of how do you apply these principles so that people can, kick off right away with some ideas on how they can apply the principles to their life.
Sure. So the first one is the easiest one. First thought of the day. Make that first thought a positive one. Be thoughtful and proactive. When you wake up tomorrow, literally tomorrow, this isn't a theoretical concept for 3 months from now. Tomorrow morning, as you open your eyes, you're like, oh, what was that crazy guy saying? Oh yeah, positive, happiness, grateful. Already you started better. As you walk out the door tomorrow, smile. As you get in your car, smile. As you get to the office, smile. As you're making dinner, smile. You could do this right now, by the way. You don't have to wait for tomorrow. This is a today tool, right? Smile. It makes you feel better. It makes the world around you feel better. Look for ways to celebrate small wins. We don't celebrate enough in life. There's criticism that I've heard over the years. Oh, we give every kid a trophy, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Celebrate life. Celebrate being alive. Celebrate being home with a loved one. Celebrate a win at work. So whatever it is, make a big deal about things. Go out and celebrate more. Random acts of kindness. When was the last time you did something for someone without any expectation in return? You don't even know the person. I tell stories about that in the book, about random acts of kindness and going out of your way. When was the last time you engaged a stranger by just saying hello?
Right.
I sent out a newsletter today. I have a newsletter distribution, and I talked about how literally this morning, I'm a runner. I run early in the morning, and I was out at about, I'd say 6:15, and it was cold and it was dark, and I was a couple miles from my house, and I'm listening to a book, and I hear somebody yell something at me. And I look up, and it's the garbage truck driver. He's waving to me. He's waving to me and smiling. I don't know what he said. 15, 20 minutes later, I'm on my way back, and I run by the crossing guard in front of the school, and I'm running. So this is all sort of,
Yeah.
like, hey, I haven't seen you. Where were you last week? I'm like, oh, I was traveling last week. How you doing? Good. How are you? Have a great day. Okay, so now it's 6:30, and I've already had an interaction with the garbage truck driver. Why? Because as I'm out running all the time, I'm waving and yelling, hey, have a good day. When I run by the crossing guard every day, and I run probably 4 or 5 days a week, hey, how are you? Have a good day. Happy Thursday. Go out and engage with people. Just smile. Just say hello. Ask them a question. Now, my examples are a little bit different because I'm running, so I'm not stopping to engage in a conversation. But when was the last time you sat next to someone on a plane, or you talked to the barista who's making your coffee? Hey, how are you? How is your day today? What's going on? Getting to know people. Engage. These are all small, like right now, your listeners listen. It's like, all right, so smile, random acts of kindness, celebrate, wake up happy, talk to strangers. Like, I could do that exactly.
Right.
But here's the question. Have you done it today?
Right.
I bet you haven't. These are small tweaks to your life that can make you so much happier and make those around you happier. How great do you think that garbage truck driver feels that he's got some guy running around the neighborhood in the morning waving to him and yelling hello, right? It makes him like a human.
Yeah, definitely.
He's got a story. He wants to engage. He was excited to see me this morning. I didn't even see him. I got my head down. I'm running. It's cold. I got a hat on. I got a headlamp on. I got my headphones on. And I'm like, who's calling me? What's up? How are you? Engage the world around you. So there's probably 5 or 6 very quick easy tools for you.
And those are all great because it helps us engage with people. It helps other people enjoy themselves, enjoy their day. Just those 2 interactions, you're making people look for you. People want to see you. They enjoy seeing you. I know what you mean with the garbage person. We have a garbage truck driver, and when I watch my niece's son, he's 2, and the garbage truck, he loves the trucks, and we go out there to watch. And they got the dumpster. She comes out and she waves at him and smiles. You can see it just makes her day because the little kid's so excited. Somebody cares. And that's all it is we all want to be cared. That feeling of care is such a great thing. And so, great that you're spreading that in our world. So great. Well, Scott, where can people find out more about you and how they can get a hold of you and get your book?
So the book is available on Amazon. It's available on barnesandnoble.com and available in local bookstores. To the extent your local bookstore doesn't have it, you could ask them to order it. It's being distributed now throughout the country. We just released it earlier this year, a few months ago, so it's still being distributed. You can always order it on my website or find out more about me on my website, lifeistoshortguy.com. I'm also doing a fair number of speaking engagements in the year ahead. So to the extent you or your company or organization might be interested in bringing me on as a speaker to talk about the Life is Too Short Guy, you can definitely reach out that way. You can find my email on the website. And, even if you wanted a signed copy, I'd be happy if you email me to send you a signed copy as well. So lifeistoshortguy.com is the best way to find me.
Great. We will make sure we have that all in the show notes. And Scott, I appreciate the energy, the enthusiasm, the encouragement you offer, the positivity you offer our world and for our guests on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time today to be a guest on the Encouragement Engineering Podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bob. And I still tell you, I'm so impressed. You're the first guy to answer that question. 10% of your happiness is predicted by your circumstances. I'm so impressed.
Well, thank you, but you got to put it in reality. We can't take it with us.
Take care.
Thanks, Scott. You have a great day.